All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our council meeting. We have a full house here down here at the city office, and we're excited to have that many people here. To get started, I've asked Randy Chipman to give us our motivational talk and prayer. So if he'll come on up, just come right here.
No pressure, there's a lot of people.
Randy.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody coming out to hear my message today. It's fantastic. I was a little surprised when Mike asked me to speak for 30 minutes, so whatever, but here we go.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity, and first of all, let me just say good luck to those. I know it's election day. I know anybody willing to put their name out there on a ballot is got a lot more courage than I do, so good luck to that. And just really briefly, a couple weeks ago, our neighborhood had we have an annual neighborhood Halloween 5K that our kind of neighborhood gets together and does, and it's pretty fun. And that was a couple weeks ago. And I took my two youngest daughters. My daughter that's 6 went, and they're dressed up in their Halloween costumes. And at the starting line, she was there holding hands with another 6-ish-year-old boy. And I talked to him for a second, and I assumed they were great friends from school. And they ran the race together and played and had fun. And afterwards, I asked her who that was. You know, I'm a concerned dad who is holding hands with my 6-year-old daughter, and all those type of questions. And she said, I have no idea, I just met him.
Oh.
And
You're in trouble.
And I thought about that, over the last couple of weeks in a lot of different aspects. And as I thought about, something to say tonight, I guess really what I thought about more than anything in a world that has so much hate and the tragedies that we see and, all of the negativity, kindness is sorely lacking. And I thought if we could have the heart and the love of a 6-year-old, the world would be a much better place. And over the tragedies that we've seen, I just don't know that there's a way to legislate those actions. But I think if we're kind and we're aware of our neighbors and who they are, and we could have an impact. And the nice things that we say to individuals, we never know the depth that carries. In addition to the negative things, when we say things negatively, we don't know the effect that has. So the thought, more than anything, is to be aware in the season of giving and festivities and holidays. Be kind and be aware of those around us. Know our neighbors, get to know them, so that we can be aware of their needs and serve them and have a stronger, better community. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Randy.
I've asked Councilman Gordon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would the audience please rise? Please repeat the pledge after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, we have some neat things going on here in our town. I'd like to invite the Maple Mountain High School girls soccer team to come in, and their coach. If you don't know by now, they took state in soccer. So come on in, just line right up here. Yeah. You can look at us, because you're going to be on camera, and the camera's right here. And millions of people are going to be watching you, so be careful.
Wow, look at all of them.
Yeah, look at this. How many can you have
Squeeze
on
in
this
like you like
field
each
at one
other.
time?
This way. Come over
That's
this way.
good.
Keep coming. There we go.
All right, look at this. Did you bring the whole school? That's cool. This is awesome. Where's the coach? Good job. He's herding them all in. Coach, how about coming up and explain to us what happened here with this good-looking group of individuals? And while you're there, introduce yourself.
All right, my name is Jeff Lewis, first-year coach for Maple Mountain High School girls program. And as you can see, we have a great group of ladies here. This is actually only about half, to be honest.
Oh, my heavens.
So we get an opportunity to teach over 60 girls this year. And, you know, it was a fun year. I think this year, all the newspapers and articles and schools kind of wrote these girls off that there's no way they could win a finals. And at the beginning of the year, we decided that this year's going to be different. And a lot of these girls made some changes and made some sacrifices, personnel, positions, the work that we put in. If you saw these girls working out in the weight room, you wouldn't recognize them, all these dresses and all this nice hair done up right now. But it's been a pleasure to work with them this year, and we really appreciate your guys' hospitality with the parade that you did for us. These girls sure deserve credit and some attention for what they've done, so we really appreciate you guys inviting us here today.
Well, I tell you what, they represented Spanish Fork very well up there, and we appreciate that. We really do, and all that you do. So congratulations. Shake everybody's hand. No, just here, right here. So just make a line and shake your hand. And guess what? You don't have to stay here for all the council meetings.
Congratulations. Congratulations to you guys. That's real. Congrats. Way to go. Way to go. Way to go. Congrats.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Oh, you're your dad? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Mike says hi.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Good.
Awesome, you guys. Congratulations to you. Way to go. Congratulations to you.
So which one you did the backflip after you won?
Congratulations.
Nice job.
Good job. Way to go.
Hey, you didn't know I did that, did you?
Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you. Awesome, you guys.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Represent, girls.
Congrats. Congratulations. Way to go. You're awesome. Way to go. Way to go.
You bet. Slide in there.
Come get right in here. We'll do it quick and then we can finish shaking hands. Is that all right?
You want to come up here, Coach? Go off.
I'll get started over here by the ladies. It's about the girls, not about me.
Careful, he does selfies when he gets in the camera.
There's probably 3 selfies on
Yeah, yeah.
Where did I end
All
up?
right. Yeah, where are we?
Nice. Way to go. Yeah, congratulations.
I never forget those
Nice
red
work.
hands.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Good luck all through high school, girls. Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations. Way to go, guys. Awesome job. Way to go. Way to go. Now, congratulations. Okay.
Hey, good job.
Congratulations to you. Good work. Way to go. Good job, you guys. Congratulations. Awesome.
Oh, boy.
Get over this.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Nice job.
I will make you
Congratulations.
move. Oh,
Nice job.
Thanks, Coach.
Great.
Thank you. Good work. Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Congratulations, girls.
Way to go.
Way to go.
Nice job. Thanks for coming.
Kick that day boy act in the butt for me.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach. Good work.
Way to go.
All right, that was fun. Fun.
Good crew.
Okay. Now we've got another great honor that came to an individual and also someone representing Spanish Fork. Del, would you like to come up, introduce to this young man?
Yes, sir. My honor. This individual I'm going to introduce needs no introduction. In fact, I asked him to bring his wife with him so that he would behave and wouldn't ride horses into council meeting. So, Stephen, you were here? Oh, so he didn't pay attention to that. Can I have you come up, brother? Stephen Money. Bring your wife with you, will you, Janelle?
Yep, because you couldn't have got that without her.
You can come stand up here for a minute while we brag about you. We know that everything he's accomplished is because of you, so isn't that right, brother? Huh? So let me tell you, we got a great phone call. Nick Hanks got a great phone call from the PRCA headquarters last week, the end of last week. And they broke some news to us that we wanted to shout from the rooftops, so here we are. Stephen has been selected, and it's already hit obviously the media. So Stephen has been selected to receive the John Justin Committee Person of the Year Award. Now, let me tell you what that means. There's 700 rodeos throughout the nation, which means there's 700 rodeo committees. And so this is the National Committee Person of the Year. So out of thousands and thousands of committee members, Stephen was selected for this honor. And you guys know as well as I do that this is well-deserved. Hey, that's a good-looking horse. The guy's not too bad either, but that horse is good-looking.
He's facing the right way, Dale.
Funny. So next month at the National Convention of the Pro Rodeo Cowboys Association, Stephen's going to be given this award, which is very prestigious. It's kind of a lifetime achievement award, and we know that Stephen has spent a lifetime, 34 years, right, as a rodeo director. I'll give you a chance to talk. Hold on here just a second.
Oh, he's just
34 years he spent in charge of our Fiesta Days Rodeo, and we've talked about this numerous times, but if you want to see all the awards that we've collected for our rodeo and the accolades that we've received, you can go to the Fiesta Days Rodeo Hall of Fame, which is in the High Chaparral building at the fairgrounds. And all of those awards have been received under Stephen's leadership, including induction into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. So Stephen has a whole long laundry list of things that he's accomplished with our rodeo, and we are proud. We are proud of what he's done. And and on behalf of Spanish Fork City and the many rodeo committees that have served with Stephen, and he'll be the first one to tell you that he hasn't done this alone, but it has been under his leadership. Congratulations and thank you for the many wonderful years that he's provided and served to our rodeo and brought it to what it is today. And so we love and appreciate him for what he's done and recognize that. I had to pull him off of a horse. He's herding cattle now. He thinks he's a real cowboy. So anyway, congratulations, buddy.
Thank you.
Let me just say one other thing. As you guys know, and I wasn't kidding, 34 years, Janelle sacrificed a lot as well, and her family. And we do recognize that and appreciate the sacrifice that she has given to our community in order to allow Stephen to do what he's done here. So, okay, it's all yours. Yeah, but I think you have 3 minutes.
That all?
No, just kidding.
You know, I think I was just in the right place to receive this award because the first person I got to thank is my wife and my family especially. I think I kind of put the rodeo in front of them all of these years. I've got Janelle to go with me to a couple rodeos, but I don't know if I've ever sat through an entire rodeo with her, kind of, but, you know. But like you say, when you have a committee like we've had in all of these years and that, it was just a thrill to work, and it just made your heart burn for more and more. You know, I lived at rodeo all my life and that, really loved it, but the administration that we've had in the council, the support that they gave you, how can you not go to the top? And most of all, when you got the citizens that we've got in Spanish Fork City, you're the best. I just happen to be the one that got the thing, but I think this goes to all of us, everybody in here and everybody in the city. that goes into the great arena that we have in the administration and the committee. Everybody got this award. Spanish Fort got this award, and that's great. Thank you.
I'll tell you, that's a well-deserved award, and I believe that's the first one in Utah to ever receive that award, and that's pretty impressive. You know, Steve's done a great job, and he's well renowned in the rodeo world, and everybody knows Steve Money and knows what he does, and we appreciate you. All right, moving along, we have an officer that we want to swear in. Chief, you want to come and say a few words about this?
I'm happy to report that we're fully staffed. We've got the new hires done that the council approved, and we filled the positions of those who retired and moved on to another life, and we're fully staffed with maybe the citizens would like to know, we have 35 sworn officers now, 36, counting myself. And so we're fully staffed with a lot of great people, and our last hire is David Bowen. If he'd step forward, please. And David comes to us from some experience. He's got a couple of years of work over in Provo, and then a couple of years in corrections before that. He's got a great support system here. He's got mom and dad and wife and kids here. And he's been through our field training program already. Passed through that with flying colors, faster than some of the others, just because of his experience and attitude and aptitude. And we're grateful to have David on board with us today. Mayor? If you want to ask him any questions, you can, but I won't have the answer.
Do you know what Councilwoman Beck drives?
You'll find out.
You'll find out if you just sit on Center Street.
You got to remember, this kid was just a punk kid in my neighborhood growing up, so I'm glad to see you made something out of yourself. All right, you can repeat after me. You raise your right hand. All right. I say your name.
William David Bowen.
Do solemnly swear that I will support and obey and defend
Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we like those things. This has been a good day so far. That's great. Okay. We'll go to public comments now. Anyone that would like to address the mayor and the council, you can come up. You got 3 minutes, and tell us what you, introduce yourself, and then tell us what you'd like to talk about. All right, seeing none, I'll go to council comments. Councilman Scobes.
Mayor, a couple of things. We had library board that met just a while ago. Just discussed the numbers from the senior program or the summer programs. Numbers were right as expected. Just a little bit down in some of the teen areas, but all in all, the library is being well used. We do have some members of the board that are coming to the end of their term, and so there'll be time for some names and appointment and process at that point. Also to report on the Veterans Council, we met this last week. We have a new president, President John Duncan of the Veterans Council. He's from the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I also want to extend appreciation to President Steve Stone of the American Legion, who served as the Veterans Council president. They've got work ahead of them, a way forward, but the council really is working hard to meet the interests of veterans in the community as well as Veterans Affairs. So there's a bright future in store for the council, and that's all I have.
Great. Councilman Mendenhall.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to invite a friend up that has a lot to do with our Active and Healthy committee, and I knew he'd be here again this year. He didn't think he'd be here again this year, but he is here. So I'd like to invite my friend Lyle Timmons up to tell us what a great accomplishment he's again had at the senior games that happened just last month.
Well, I got lucky.
Yeah.
In December, I fell on the ice and broke my right elbow and my left thumb. And so it took about 6 months to get over that. So I went to Pasadena's senior games in California, where I have a couple of sons and some grandkids, and was able to get 3 gold medals.
Oh, wow.
There. And one is for the hot shot. We have 5 spots on the floor and 1 minute to shoot from each one, and you have to shoot all of them. You have to rebound your own ball. And total number of points is added up and determines who the winner is. And the 3-point and free throw shooting, I was able to win. The closest one got to, he was 69. They go in 5-year increments, and I'm 87, so. So I didn't have anybody to compete against, but I always try to compete against whoever the next best guy is, so I had to go clear down to age 69 to find him. And then we have the free throw contest, and after I got these medals, I came home. I was working out in the garden and tripped on a trip hazard I shouldn't have had there, and broke my left wrist and my right thumb. So then I had to get ready for the Huntsman Senior Games. Then I asked the physical therapist how long it would be before I could shoot, and he said, well, you got just about 6 weeks, and that was just about time for October. So I went down there, and I sometimes have some grandkids in Cedar City and some in Las Vegas, and I asked them not to come this time because I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of them. And somehow I got lucky and got 2 golds and 2 silvers. And, the 3-point and free throw shooting, you shoot 25 free throws and 6 3-pointers. And my chief competition is a fellow on my own team. I have the Utah Pioneers 80 to 85-year-old basketball team. We play 3-on-3, half court. And he just moved into my age group, so I had to compete against him. And he went first, and he made 3 out of 6 3-pointers. And I couldn't even hit the rim when I was warming up. So I just said to myself, you're toast. But fortunately, I was able to hit 3 3-pointers also out of 6. But I hit 3 more free throws than he did, so I got the gold in that. And our softball team, I play on a team from Canada, from Alberta. We 3 years in a row we've taken the silver. We can't quite get past this one team from Oregon, but anyway, I was fortunate enough to do well enough, and hopefully. I'll get past my injuries and do better next year.
Sounds like you just need to stay on the basketball court and not go in the yard or the garden. It'd be a lot safer for you.
Stay off the ice, yeah.
Well, Lyle's been an inspiration to me for a couple of years now, Mayor, but with the Active and Healthy movement now going on 2 years old, it sure has been timely to get to know Lyle and to see him be an inspiration and an example to all of us, whether we're 87 or whether we're 7 in this community, that Lyle doesn't give up and he works hard at what he does, and he has well-deserved rewards for it. So from the Active and Healthy community, we'd like to recognize Lyle tonight and give him a big round of applause if you're okay with that. I wouldn't bet on him to not see him here again next year, Mayor, no matter what happens.
So all you scouts, you take a look here, see where you're going to be when you're 87.
Just a couple more things along the Active and Healthy and Parks and Recreation vein, Mayor. We had some exciting meetings happen in the Parks and Recreation world these last couple of weeks that I'd just like to give you a snippet of real quick. We won't go over detail till they're here later, and if I showed you pictures, it would wake up Brandon over there on the end, even it would. So it's pretty exciting stuff. But the next phases of the river trail are starting up. If you walk up the river trail by the golf course, it ends at what we call Dripping Rock. But the design phase of the river trail that extends up from there is actually getting complete. So it'll cross the river. It'll cross the river one way, and then it'll cross the river again and actually get up on the golf course by hole 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and go along the golf course. Then the next phase will go up by the reservoir. And so Dale's department has been awesome to work with. All the guys from his department, Bart, Jared, Corey, Lua, and Sean, along with the guys from PEC, have just been awesome to sit in these meetings with and give them recommendations, and then it's drawn and comes back to you. And that's going to be so cool to be able to get on that trail, go all the way up to the reservoir from downtown, from the sports park here, but also from where it ends at the golf course. The other exciting news in the Parks and Recreation is the final phase of the sports park. Again, I don't want to show you those pictures either, Brandon, but we got pickleball courts that will be built. I know a lot of people have been waiting for those. The west end of the sports park, where it's not complete, it hasn't been complete for a while. It is approved in the budget to get some of that work done. And that design, we got a little trouble with a gas line we didn't know was there. We found out was there, so we had to reconfigure stuff a little bit. But eventually it'll be a number of pickleball courts, some pavilions, some open grass area, along with a couple Little League baseball fields there.
Just note, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the Huston Senior Games.
Yes.
They doubled their courts last year, and it's still been coming up.
We're going to give you, Lyle, 1 year to practice pickleball. Then we expect a medal from down at the Senior Games to bring back home. So it's a great sport, and the citizens will love it, young and old. So some exciting Parks and Rec committee meetings that I've had. The other thing I'd like to, Tyler's helped me with here, is that with the League of Cities and Towns, I've been asked to chair a Constitution committee, the Constitution and the bylaws. Oddly enough, the committee, or excuse me, the Constitution hadn't been written, updated since 1990 in the League's organization, so we wanted to have a few tidbits of information of what else was in 1990. Brandon, who was the president in 1990?
George.
It was George W. Bush, okay.
That was pretty safe bet.
Got it, yep. It was the wrong George. Yeah, that was George Sr.
It was Daddy
Yeah,
George.
yeah.
My bad.
Well, this was John Stockton.
Wait, had you graduated high school yet in
The last time I
1990?
asked me to help him with this.
He didn't get anything else wrong this whole time. He just got the civics part wrong. Just be patient.
I
Okay,
Googled it.
1990 sports style. This is the last time the Constitution was written there. I didn't
Gee,
know
what'd I
that.
tell you?
I didn't know where he got that from. That's an old picture there. But,
Is that you?
Which one, the left or the right?
I know that.
I was styling in 1990. Spanish Works mayor. Yep.
Okay, let's hope the picture's right. And
Yep.
is
This
it?
is Marie Huff, great mayor. She was the board member of the League of Cities and Towns back at that time as well, yeah. Discussed at council meeting, November 7th, 1990. Mayor was a council member back then, right?
Yeah.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Bids accepted for a 3/4 ton truck of $15,760 right there. You wish you could do that these days, Dale, right? Wow. Spanish Forks population. Brandon, you ought to be close to this one.
11,000, wow.
11,000 and 40,000 today, so that's a big jump between 90 to 2017. Like Tyler said, there are a lot of things have changed since 1990 to 2017, and so does the league's constitution to make sure and represent the better interests of all the cities and towns in the state of Utah, which we're a proud member of. And so I'm excited to be on that committee and head that up to redraw those. So any recommendations you guys have as far as that constitution, we'll be sharing it so you can line item it and we can take it up there and have our input at the league of how to be better represented. Other than that, Active and Healthy Movement had Susan Chapman invited the mayor and I up to Sierra Bonita for Red Ribbon Week to speak a little bit to those students up there. They were great last week, really bright kids. Mr. Evans, I think Stacy and Chad will agree that Mr. Evans at Diamond Fork Junior High invited us to speak to his civics class as well, which is great to meet those kids. And then lastly, Mayor, a South Utah Valley Municipal Water Association meeting. We'll have this Thursday, and we'll report next time on that.
Great.
That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Argyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple of things. So the animal shelter held their board meeting last week, and we put in a new chair for the board, which was John Jackson from Mapleton. Chief Jackson accepted that and will be the board of that going forward. Also would just like to do a little shout out for the shelter with their new director, which is Kirsten Mumford. She has been doing an awesome job. She's got grants and new friends. Friends is one of them. New animal friends that's come to the shelter, which are sharing costs and helping us improve the cost of the shelter, which of course comes back to Spanish Fork City's bottom line. We share the shelter with 8 other cities, and the shelter resides here in Spanish Fork. But there's been some good things going on, and just if you're interested in adopting a pet, please consider the Spanish Fork Animal Shelter. They've got many animals, cats and dogs down there that you can go take a look at and see what's going on down there. Also, just want to say a little thing about the seniors. They had their Thanksgiving membership meal on Friday, which was very good, and always is. The seniors now have a newsletter out that they have got a company that come to them and started doing a newsletter rather than just one page. It's now 12 pages. And a lot of the business communities in Spanish Fork have donated to that, to put an ad into that, and just wanted to make sure that those businesses are aware of how much that's appreciated. That newsletter has been very well received, both by the seniors and the community, because it helps to get out some of the things that's going on with the seniors and at the senior center, and has been a great success. And the new director, Verna Joe, has been doing a wonderful job down there, and it hasn't been easy. She's cleaned up the place down there and changed a few things. And as you know, most of us are pretty hard to take change, especially when you get older. Even my mom mentions she's 89 and she doesn't have to listen to people telling her to change. So it's been some good things going on down to the Senior Citizen Center. Thank you, Mayor.
Good. Councilmember Beck.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Scouts, for being here. About 3 years ago, I lived in your neighborhood. I don't know if any of you even remember back then, but you guys you're paying pretty close attention. Thanks for being here, and hopefully it's a good night for you. Like Mike said, Chad, Mike, and I each took 1 or 2 classes at the Diamond Fork Junior High yesterday, and good group of kids, and one of them they were super excited about the recent ribbon cuttings of Canyon Creek and the stores there, as well as Walmart. They were really excited about Walmart because a lot of them live up on the east side of town, and they're really excited for the movie theater to open in December. They got giddy over being open for Star Wars, so they're happy about that. I'll invite Heather Youd, the director of the Chamber of Commerce, to come up and report on all things chamber.
I have a few things. The trick-or-treating this year was great. We had a ton of kids. We had a lot of participation, so I heard nothing but good things about that. So thanks to everyone who participated with that. The farmers market is finally finished. It was wonderful this year. One of the big things that we did this year is we started accepting SNAP benefits. So we received a grant from the Active and Healthy to help us buy some of the equipment that we needed to run the SNAP program. And just to kind of give you an update on that, because of the SNAP, we had 53 new customers. We collected $3,075 just in SNAP and $1,391 in the Double Up, which is a part of the Utahns Against Hunger program. So that's just over $4,300 that was able to go back into the local farmers, into their coffers. So it was a really good program, and I think it really helped out a lot of those people who wouldn't have been able to come to the market otherwise. So, and then we have our business of the month. This month is Triple T. We went there today and helped them celebrate, so we appreciate them. They do a lot for our community. We currently have chamber board elections running. They'll go until the 15th of November, so if you're part of the chamber, please go vote if you haven't done it already. Two more things. We have our Olive Garden ribbon cutting on November 20th. Everyone's really excited, so we hope you guys will all come out and help us celebrate. It's early in the morning at 9 a.m. And then we have our Winter Lights Parade on the 24th. So if you haven't submitted for a float, get it done. That's all I have.
Yes, Mayor, we're taken care of. Elaine Hansen has got our float up and going. And if I can just publicly thank our Chamber of Commerce. She just nonchalantly comes up here and says, trick or treat went great, we finished up the farmer's market, but those things make our city better than the average city, I think, that we neighbor. I think you guys and your efforts, the Scarecrow contest was the biggest yet, right, Heather? Those scarecrows are so fun to look at. I wanted to just say the winners, the Sloth from Triple T won for the business entry. The school winner was Reese Elementary. And then families and adults can also participate. So this is not just for businesses. And the adult winner was Angie Gorel. I think that was her name. So thank you to all of our residents who participated and engaged with that. And then just all the time and effort for the farmers market. We love the chamber taking care of that. That's 3 months of every single Saturday for 6+ hours, taking in applications, setting up, taking down, meetings, the marketing, everything. You guys take care of it all. So just know that we really appreciate the Chamber of Commerce in our city. And that's all, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Councilman Gordon.
Nothing from me, Mayor.
Well, that's easy. Just want to say a few things on your trick-or-treat on Main Street. That gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year. You know, first time we did it a long time ago, we ran out of candy. We went and got more. I got 2,000 pieces of candy this year, and I gave everyone out. I gave the last one out 10 minutes after 3. So, yeah, and they love it. I've had a lot of comments come back from the citizens how much they love that. So thank you. You know, you're right. She doesn't get enough thanks for what they do and all the businesses that put that on. So thank you. Also, has had the opportunity to go around and visit with a couple of businesses that we have here in town that's been here for a while, that's probably been here, maybe about a year or a little longer. And each one just talked about how thrilled they are to be here in Spanish Fork. They've moved here from different locations, and they talk about how great the citizens have been and how much they enjoy being a part of this community. And so I want to just tell the community thank you for welcoming these businesses. I talked to a manager up there in one of the businesses up in Canyon Creek, and she's moving here from Bountiful, and they're pretty excited to move down here. So good things are happening here in Spanish Fork, and we love seeing those things. Okay. Oh, and also, you've got just an hour and a half to vote if you haven't voted. Appreciate all those who voted. It's a little different this year. We voted by mail, but if you didn't get a ballot or you haven't voted yet, you can still go down to our Senior Citizen Center and vote. Study out the candidates you want and vote for who you'd like. And we appreciate all those who have voted and used their constitutional rights to do that and make a difference. So thank you for all those who voted. Okay, Spanish Fork 101, snow plowing. It's got to be Chris.
Okay, we have a little video that SFCN made for us last year. It's a minute and a half, so maybe if we could watch that and maximize it. Can we get the volume? So we'll skip the video. All right, so what the video would have told you, and anyone can go online to our snow plowing website and view it, but it talks about 2 years ago we passed, the City Council passed an ordinance which restricted parking on the roads during a snowstorm. And the parking on the sides of the roads during the snowstorm really slows down our snow plows and makes it so that we can't clear the street from side to side. Maybe if you could scroll up to the bottom of this, scroll down to the bottom right here. Okay, so there's 4 reasons why this ordinance was passed. First of all, if we cannot have parking on the side of the street while it is snowing, then we can clear the streets a lot quicker and more thoroughly. Second is we'll have a lot less incidents of damaging these vehicles that are on the side of the streets. The roads are really slippery when our plows are coming around corners and when they're trying to clear as much of the road as possible. And when we have these trailers and vehicles out on the side of the road, a lot of them for days and days on end, so they're covered with snow and not as visible. It's hard for us to keep from damaging them, and sometimes the snow gets harder and we're blowing it off to the side of the road and it hits the vehicles and that damages them as well. The next thing is it's a lot safer for our snow plow drivers, especially on some of the steep roads that they are coming down. When there's cars parked on the side of the road and they're trying to weave in and out of cars, but they're coming down a hill that's slippery and where you can slide out of control, it makes it a lot easier for our plow drivers to navigate these very large vehicles down steep roads. And then one other effect that this ordinance is having is when people leave vehicles and trailers on the side of the road for long periods of time, perhaps when they're broke down or what have you, it kind of clutters up the road. And we've gotten a lot of comments on how when the roads are forced to be cleared with all of these snow incidents, then it clears the roads and makes them a lot more pleasant to drive down. But we do get a lot of questions about snow plowing, so if you could scroll back up to a little ways. One of the things that people ask us a lot is what are our priorities for plowing snow? And so if you go to our website on snow plowing, they're listed here. Our number one priority is going to be arterial roads, major collector roads, school bus routes, and streets with really steep grades that if we don't get ahead of the ice on those, then it's really dangerous for the residents. After we've taken care of these roads and we feel like they are in good condition, then we move to our priority 2 roads, which are minor collector roads and high volume through residential roads. So if there's a road that connects a residential area out to the collector arterial roads and it has a higher volume, then we'll reach out to those roads second. in priority. And then third priority is all the remaining streets that are through streets. And then our fourth priority are dead-end roads and cul-de-sacs because of the difficulty of plowing them. Now, if we can, and on big snowstorms, we will reach out to other departments and we'll try to get some of the smaller vehicles and loaders to start on the dead-end roads and cul-de-sacs with equipment that we can't really plow larger streets on. But because of the difficulty of those type of streets, it typically takes a bit longer to plow them. One of the things this year that we're kind of excited about is last year we tested a mapping system that each plow would have an iPad screen, and the screen would show where the other plows were plowing. And so if we know this, we can plan better from our trucks and be able to see what we have plowed, what that truck's plowed, and what the other guys around us have plowed, and it makes us a lot more efficient. It still was a little bit spotty in how it could be used, and so this year we've worked really hard. Our GIS department has worked really hard to develop a better one that's more real time. Last year you'd have to press update continually to kind of see what's going on. This will update real time and provide a lot better coverage of what's being done. And so we feel like that will make our plows a lot more efficient too. So we're kind of excited about this. It hasn't even been tested yet, and our GIS department's already been asked to go speak at a national conference back east on how this works. So that'll be interesting when we don't even know if it works. But if you have any questions, feel free to call us or go to this website. There's a map here. Maybe could you click on that, Tyler? So if you're ever wondering what your street looks like in the priority scheme of things, that's on this website. You can see all the priority ones are the darker blue lines, and you can see where your road is as far as when we get to it in order. And obviously on a lighter snowstorm, we'll get to your street quicker because it's easier to clear the higher priority roads. But we have a great streets department. I went and spent some time with them paving this summer, and I can't tell you how impressed I was with how dedicated and hardworking every single one of them are. And I'm looking forward to spending some time in the plows with them this winter, probably as a passenger.
Thank you.
But just was really great to get to know them a little bit, and I'll say the cities are in really good hands with our streets department.
Great.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. All right, Business Loan Fund of Utah.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm going to introduce a guest that we're very fortunate to have with us tonight in just a minute. But before I do that, I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about a very strong history that Spanish Fork City has about doing progressive things to help facilitate commerce in the community. And for me, I guess a number of different types of things come to mind. For example, we'll talk a little bit later tonight about SAPA in some different respects, and it was Seth's predecessor, Dave Euler, that decades ago did some things acting as the city manager to help bring what has kind of evolved into SAPA over the years to the community, a manufacturing operation that employs hundreds of people, that buys power from the city, that in every way I think is a great corporate citizen. And again, that's the result of somebody having some foresight and having a group of elected officials that at the time were willing to help bring that facility to the community. I think about the windmills. Now, Spanish Fork City created a redevelopment area to help make that project happen. I think about things like our airport that does many different things to help businesses work and function and succeed here in the community, something that's the direct result of an investment that Spanish Fork has made over time into that facility. Today, in a lot of respects, Canyon Creek is on our minds. It's great to go to ribbon cuttings. It's great to be able to shop in new stores, to see the very positive impact that has in our community. Of course, that is the result of what now is over a decade worth of work and effort. Again, a very progressive attitude that the community's had. That being said, Mr. Plaisir, Mike Plaisir, we're, like I said, I think very fortunate to have him with us here tonight. He's here to talk about something that's now called the Business Loan Fund of Utah. And just so I don't prove my ignorance, I'll keep my comments about the details of that fund to a minimum, and I'll let him maybe expound on them a little bit. But I think, again, to use the word, I think we're very fortunate as Spanish Fork City now to have an opportunity to participate in a fund that ultimately will provide small businesses in Spanish Fork with an opportunity to obtain financing that without this fund they could not get. So some of the projects that I mentioned a few minutes ago, a big manufacturing operation, a big retail project, and those sorts of things. In many respects, it's very easy for cities to find ways to assist manufacturers to expand, retailers to open new stores, and those sorts of things to happen in a community. It's harder for us for reasons that, frankly, they're out of our control. But given the tools that are available to us, it's harder for us to find meaningful ways to help small businesses. And I think that's probably the thing that I appreciate the most about this opportunity that we have with the Business Loan Fund of Utah. It gives Spanish Fork City a very direct and, again, I would say very meaningful way to provide opportunities for smaller businesses in the community to grow and to prosper. And with that being said, Mike, do you want to come on up? We really haven't scripted anything tonight, at least I haven't. I know Mr. Plaisir has some thoughts in mind. I do hope that you'll take this opportunity with him here with us. He offices in Salt Lake. He resides in Farmington, so he's a long ways from home tonight. We do anticipate having some action items on your agenda in 2 weeks relative to this fund so that we can participate and make these opportunities available to businesses here. I think it's exciting. And Mike, I'll let you take over. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to you a little bit about this fund. Excited about this fund. Thought first I'd just tell you a little bit about our organization. We started, had a career in banking and worked in banking for 30 years. And 9 years, almost 9 years ago, December 2nd of 2008, I was working for Zions and was asked by the president of the bank to do some new things for him. He was concerned about the foreclosure crisis coming and asked that I try to figure out a way to turn foreclosures into affordable housing. And from that, over the last 9 years, we started, 9 years ago, we started a nonprofit called the Utah Center for Affordable Housing. What the purpose of that organization was to work with other nonprofits around the state of Utah, help them buy foreclosures, get access to foreclosures, buy those foreclosures, rehab them, and then sell them to low and moderate income families. Since that, 9 years ago, we've done over 800 units, foreclosed units that we've had turned into affordable housing. Along with that, in 2013, the state of Utah had some money that was the State Small Business Credit Initiative. It was some Treasury money that was used to part of the Small Jobs Growth Act of 2010, and it was to be used to do venture capital, loan guarantees, and loan participations. The state put that out for bid, and we were the successful bidder on that and administered those funds for the state of Utah. That was a Treasury program that ended in December 31st of 2016. And our board, that program was very successful. From 2013 to 2016, we did over $54 million in loans to small businesses that what we look at as businesses that we call them either formally bankable, because there were a lot of businesses during 08 and 09 and 10 that had been doing well before that, and the recession hurt them. They didn't have a balance sheet or income statements. They could get conventional bank financing, or businesses that were starting, had been in business for a few years, needed some more money, but they were they couldn't get money from the bank because their balance sheets just didn't show and their income didn't show that they qualified. Through that, we helped those businesses get the financing they needed so that they could grow. Nationwide, there's a real food desert in the $50,000 to $250,000 loans. If you need over that, the money's easier to find and to get. And if you need under that, there's several organizations that you can get under that. But that 50 to 250, there's what we call a financing desert there. When the Treasury program ended in the end of 2016, our board really saw the need to continue with the small business lending and saw a great need out there in the communities. And as an organization, what we've tried to do is find those needs where there's needs in the organization where no one will step in and do it and say, let's our organization step in and help make that work. So since earlier this year, we've been working with a group of cities, and we appreciate Dave Anderson and Spanish Fork and their willingness. They're one of our original founding cities that we've been working on this since about February with Dave on this. To put together a fund. Its initial fund will be $7 million. Right now we have the cities that are and counties that are we're working with to close the fund. We have Spanish Fork, Box Elder County, Weber County, Ogden City, Orem City, and Provo City. I can tell you that Provo City has given final approval for the fund. Weber County has given final approval for the fund. Orem City has approved participation in the fund and will anticipate next Tuesday appropriating the money to participate in the fund. Ogden is going in next week for a working session and then hopes to have final approval the first week of December. Box Elder, they're a little bit delayed, and we're hoping for approval in Spanish Fork in the next week or two. With that, we'll have an initial fund of $7 million. The lender has approved that already. Documents we should have final draft of the documents ready this week for approval by the cities and counties. We think this is a great opportunity because the cities and counties, you can take for every $50,000 you put into the fund, you get access to $350 in loans. So it's a great way to leverage city money to go into businesses in the city that may not be able to get regular financing. And I think there's a great need in all the cities across Utah for those type of businesses. The city will have an opportunity when we initially are contacted by a business or one's referred. We think we'll get a lot of referrals from banks, from the city. But each referral that we get, the way this will work is we'll do an initial summary of the business, of what it is, and a summary of what they're requesting. We'll send that to the city. Then the city can decide, is this business one that's acceptable and meets the criteria that Spanish Fork can decide. Each city wants different things. Provo does not want any restaurants. But Ogden City says if it's in an approved area, we love new restaurants. So each city can decide what kind of businesses they want to go help participate with in their city. The city will have an opportunity initially to say, this meets our criteria, and it's just an initial summary. It's not a credit, but is this the kind of city we want to use our funds to finance? They'll give a go-ahead, a consent to underwrite, and then that loan is underwritten and goes to committee. The committee will consist of each bank that participates in it gets a seat on the committee. Our nonprofit will have a seat, and whichever city or county is putting up the loan loss for that loan will also have a seat on that committee. Then that loan committee can approve the loan, they can decline the loan, or they can say, we'll do this, but we need more top loss on it. The city's money would be in a top loss position, so that $50,000 equates to about 15% of the loan amount. That would be in a top loss position, but the city would earn interest at that on the same rate as the bank earns. The bank's interest rate is going to be a LIBOR rate plus 325. We anticipate most of these loans will be fixed, and today that rate would be about 5.5% that the banks would get. The city will earn that same interest rate on that, but their money will be in top loss. Now, our organization has put up a top loss. We're going to put up a top loss that's a blanket top loss for all the loans. So if the loss is greater than the 15% that the city or county puts up, then our loss kicks in, and we're putting in. Our organization, our board is, they love this project. They think there's a real need for it, and they're going to put in $600,000 of top loss of loan loss reserve for that. But we see this as a great way. We really appreciate Spanish Fork being innovative and willing to look at this. I was at a national conference in D.C. a couple of weeks ago on small business lending, and I was talking to some of the participants there about this loan program and what we're doing, and they're all marveled at it because you don't see anything like this in the state, not only in the state but in the country. This is a new way to work with banks, working with private money, public money, and being able to leverage that money and make that fund grow. We're hoping, as this program is a success, we've talked to several other banks. They're excited about coming into this, and we hope the fund grows. Several of the cities look at this and say if this is successful the first year, then they're going to put more money into it and grow the fund next year. So we think that, and we tried to keep the number of cities small because every city has an attorney, which they're all wonderful, and he's been great to work with. But the more people you get in the room and try to make something work, the harder it is. So we tried to keep it with a small number, but as soon as this closes, which we hope is early December, we'll go out and try to get more communities involved in this and grow the fund. So I really appreciate working with Dave. Dave's been great to work with, and we're excited about the fund. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions?
I've got one. Is this, and you may have explained it, and I didn't quite catch it. Is this for business startup, or is this a fund that local businesses could use for expansion or renovation, different things that they would use a loan for as well?
Yes, we see this not as a startup business. One of our criteria is that they have to have been in business for 2 years and have income. There are different microenterprise loan fund and different funds that will do the startup, and we don't want to compete with those. We look at a minimum loan size of about $50,000, but it's exactly for that. It can be working capital, it can be facade, it can be equipment, it can be, and the city, each city can say, this is what we want it for. We want it for this cluster, we want it for this type. They have input on what they want to see in the city. And the other thing is the funds from Spanish Fork only get used in Spanish Fork for cities that Spanish Fork has approved to participate in. So that your money won't go into Orem or Provo or into Ogden or Box Elder.
I'm excited. Mike, thanks for coming. I told Mike earlier, from a banking standpoint, we could send you a couple of requests a month, and I know every other bank in town could, of people that just are in that area where they're not quite bankable. And I think Heather with the Chamber of Commerce and the accolades we've already given the Chamber today, you should take this as a note to the businesses that you guys know the business community well, but I see this as a fantastic way for especially business owners up and down Main Street and property owners up and down Main Street to be able to access this fund if they can't quite get a bank loan in town. And that rate is a very competitive rate. It should be something affordable for people, and I'm proud that the city took an initial step to participate. So excited.
Thank you.
Great. Hey, thank you. We look forward to working with it more.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for making the trip.
Okay. Consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon.
Second.
Second by Council Member Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's go to, going to be a public hearing on ordinance 2617, make an amendment to height requirements in the S-Z zone.
Yeah, you bet. This is the height requirement one, right?
That's right. Way to pay attention.
Yeah.
You're all right.
Got a little distracted for a minute. Our shopping center zone is primarily concentrated up in the area around the junction of I-15 and US Highway 6. A little bit of Canyon Creek is zoned SC, which we'll get on here in just a second. Just go over layers, Tyler, and then down to planning and zoning. And then down at the bottom, yep. So it's this kind of blue color here. So Shopco and some of the properties that are, that is Macy's. So Macy's and then Shopco over here and some of the properties around that are zoned shopping center. The old Trust Plant property, we'll talk more about that in a minute. That's zoned shopping center and so forth. And that's really the part of the community that we're talking about here, where we talk about potentially raising the maximum allowable height from 48 feet to 60 feet. Typically, when we propose a change like that, it's because we have a particular project in mind. In this case, it's the prospect of a hotel being built right around here, where they potentially would like to have a building that would be 56 feet tall, we've been told. So that being the proposal, as we've talked about it as staff, particularly with it being the shopping center zone, which, you know, really with very few exceptions is not in any kind of close proximity to, for example, maybe some single-family dwellings or some other land uses that might be impacted by that height differential going from 48 feet and maybe to something taller up to 60 feet. I don't want to make it sound like we've taken this lightly, but I wouldn't view this change from our perspective as really being a big deal. Potentially having a 60-foot tall building. If there was any place in the community where it would make sense, I think it's in these areas in this zone. And you know, even in some respects, I would say that we could benefit from having a little bit taller building, something a little bit more massive with a little bit more bulk to it, particularly in an area of town where we'd like to see some more intense land uses. So again, that's the proposal, just changing the maximum height from 48 to 60 feet. In the shopping center zone, both the Development Review Committee and Planning Commission have recommended that it be approved.
Okay. Since this is a public hearing, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone that would like to come and talk about this item on the agenda can do so now. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Scopes. Any questions, comments?
How soon are we going to see the plat for this zone change?
He's holding it.
Different one. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Couple weeks, month.
Soon.
No, you won't see it because that's an administrative approval. We'll handle that as staff. The Planning Commission just last week approved a conditional use for the hotel to be built right here. I'm not trying to put a negative spin on it at all by saying you won't see it, but that's The upside is our processes are so efficient that we handle things like that at the staff level. We're pretty nimble and get things approved quick. We do brag about that sometimes. But we'll have information on the city's website as soon as they make formal application for site plan approval for that, which, you guys have anything to add, timing-wise?
The site plans were submitted today.
Okay, so
Perfect.
if anybody in the community wants to come in and take a look, it's available, and we can sit down. We talk about the actual entity. That's probably on the application at this point. Yeah. Okay, so Hampton Inn is what we expect. That'll be
I
branded.
love Hampton Inn. I
Well,
love
you got
your
one
pillows.
person that's going to come already there.
When Chris kicks her out, she's got a place to stay.
No, you guys have good pillows. Thank you.
And the little soaps and the bath towels.
A great breakfast.
She's got a whole bathroom full of all of that stuff, including the pillows.
The pillows, the blankets, everything else. Chief, you might want to come talk to her.
Watch her.
So I'd guess we'd
Okay.
have that site plan approved in a matter of a few weeks.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Great.
Just one question for those that might be concerned. This does not affect the flight path to the airport, correct?
It doesn't. It won't have any impact. There are other things in the immediate vicinity still that are taller. Got a 100-foot tall Canyon Creek sign.
They're flying that low, we're in trouble.
They've got, yeah, right.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I make
Due
a
to
motion.
the good, I was going to say due to the good pillows, I want to make a
Oh,
motion.
go ahead. Yeah, you make the motion.
Okay. Due to the good pillows, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance Z12-17, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City. Am I even on the right thing?
No. One up from that.
Mike, take it over. Mike, it won't come
Those
up.
pillows got her flabbergasted.
Here you go, Stace.
Got it. Motion to approve ordinance 26-17, making amendments to height requirements in the SC zone.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Beck and a second by Councilman Mendenhall, and this will be a roll call vote. Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
That is approved. So we're off to the races on that one. Okay, ordinance Z12-17, changing zoning designation of amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork for the Robarge collision zone change.
Again, Mr. Mayor, thank you. There are a couple of different components to this. First of all, let me talk about what Mr. Robarge wants to do. I'm sure he'll want to add some things, but in short, they'd like to expand the business that they have a few blocks south of us here on Main Street. I have every reason to say that I think it's a great business, and Carrie's been very involved in the community in a lot of different ways over the years. And we've seen a lot of very positive changes happen on Main Street, maybe from 3rd South down to Volunteer, with improvements that UDOT's made over the course of the last 10 years with different businesses that have opened. I think if we were to go back and look at some pictures from 10 years ago to today, we might even be surprised at how much it's changed. And from my perspective, this really is going to be the next big thing that will help dress up that into the community. Robarge collision with this proposal would be expanded, and we can look at a site plan that they have in just a minute. But at present, with that being an automotive body shop on property that is zone C2, it's a legal but non-conforming use, or it's grandfathered. And grandfathered uses can't be expanded. So, in order to permit Robarge collision to expand, we would need to change the zoning on the property that's outlined in black here so that it matches the zoning that is to the west of the subject property there along 5th South. And in short, the Development Review Committee discussed that concept. The Planning Commission did as well. and both bodies have recommended that that change be approved. So going from the C2 zone to the I1 zone, which I will just mention, that's kind of a unique step for us to take. I can't envision very many other scenarios but for a business like Robarge Collision that would want to expand, a business that I think we have every reason to believe will remain in operation well into the future. This isn't a situation where I think we need to be overly concerned about perhaps the company changing hands and being operated differently, and maybe the result of this change having a negative impact instead of a positive on the neighborhood. But certainly with the factors that we're aware of being what they are, from my perspective, this is an easy change to support, changing that zoning. The other part of the proposal has to do with, it's kind of like Grifols. So with Grifols, they were short on parking and they were short on landscaping. So we developed this development enhancement overlay, which is something that we don't intend to use really often, only in circumstances where I think it'll be much like the Grifols proposal and this one, where you've got some kind of an existing facility that's proposed to be changed, and with that, somebody can't meet the current requirements that are in place. In the case of the Robarge expansion, if you can maybe go, I think we've got a site plan on
Just
maybe the next page.
Oh, on the next page?
Yeah.
Okay, let me scroll down.
Or the third page.
It's there. Farther.
A little bit farther down, I think. So this is the existing building here, this being 5th South, that being Main Street. This is the drive into Landmark High School. The existing main building is right there in kind of that tan color. Another building that they currently use exists is identified as such. This would be the expansion area. And depending on how you calculate our parking requirements and whether we were to give them credit for parking that exists under the roof here, they're deficient in terms of meeting our requirements for parking for this kind of an automotive repair business. Now, that being said, I think like most of us probably, we've observed Robarge Collision over the years, and we haven't really seen that they have a parking problem. And I would assume that with this new facility, they will be able to handle more customers, and maybe you'll have more of a need for parking. But given the area that they have behind the shop, for cars that may be in different stages of repair and that sort of a thing, I think we have every reason to believe that as proposed, the parking's adequate. I'm just speaking for myself relative to that. For a number of different reasons, they can't, from my perspective, modify the site to add some of the landscaping that we require. For example, a certain amount of landscaping in the front adjacent to the public street. That makes the building completely inaccessible as it's currently laid out. And there's some other factors that also relate to landscaping that make it such that they would need to have the development enhancement overlay approved in order to make this expansion happen the way they've designed it. Got another perspective on the proposed expansion. I think we have a couple of building elevations as well. So just FYI. East elevation, so this is what you'll see from Main Street, and maybe, Carrie, this is a good time for me to turn it over to you or Mr. Fallon, just maybe to talk a little bit more about this and anything else that you would like to add. But relative to the development enhancement overlay, like the change to the I-1 zone, that is also something that both the Development Review Committee and Planning Commission have recommended be approved so that the site plan that we were just looking at can be followed with the project's development. So if you have anything for me, I'll let these gentlemen maybe fill in things that I've missed.
Great.
Mr. Robarge, are you aware of the cell phone rule that is enforced when you're in the chambers?
Yes,
What's your understanding of that?
My understanding of the cell phone rule from these chambers were put into place when I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce. And if your phone went off when you were in a board meeting, you had to put $5 in the kitty. And then at the end of the month, we had a party on the cell phone money.
Ours is a little different.
I was a member of the chamber when you were president. That never, ever happened.
So you want to know what happens in the city?
I would like to know what the city's policy is on cell
The
phones.
city policy, if your phone goes off in a meeting, you have to bring donuts to
Oh.
everyone.
Is there any good donut shops in town?
That's the challenge.
After, I might be able to recommend one.
At least we got that straight. Mayor, council, I'm happy to be here tonight and grateful that it's election night and there's some of you in the chairs that are a little bit more worried about it than I am tonight. So just glad you're all here. So I would be open to answer any questions that you may have about our expansion. I would like to make one point.
Let's hear it.
The point of the parking at my facility, the only time that we have problems and issues with parking is during Fiesta Days. And I give away free parking and free hot dogs and free sodas on Fiesta Days, and we are capable of putting about 125 cars on that property. And so we are fully aware of what it would take to man our facility with wrecked cars, and we're just real excited to be able to do that.
That won't hinder you with this new building.
We may have to park cars in the building for Fiesta Days.
No, I mean, given the hot dogs and free drinks.
No, we'll still be doing that.
Yeah, that would be the more pertinent question there.
Not a question, but I appreciated the comment that Dave made on just your business and really your contribution to the community over the years. You were chamber president, and you know, a concern would be that this change could be made and you could sell your business, or you know, and it could change hands and different. Now there's a different zone possibly.
Sure.
And for me, I'm comforted by knowing that your commitment to the community and what you've done for so many years has been.
And might I add, his son will take over, so we've got a lot of years ahead of us
Well,
with
I have
Garrett.
to be honest, I have full intentions of selling this business as fast as I can.
To him?
And the potential
Oh.
owners, they're working, and there's three of them. Three of my boys are working for me, and the sooner that they can take it over, the better.
You need to pay them more so they can buy
it. Either way.
Is your plans to tear the existing or just improve with the build?
Good question. This is the current facility right here. So this is the 1950s architecture design of a 1950s General Motors dealership. Rounded glass showrooms, big open showrooms so that they could park cars in there. We've operated a collision facility out of that, pretty much too big of a space for a collision facility, but we've utilized it and made it work for us. Mr. Fallon and the architecture team has done a pretty good job of adopting the design of what this old building was, and we've got some glass panels here to match the glass showroom, and then there's some brick columns that'll match the brick that are over here on this side, so that it ties new technology and the new building in with the existing facility. We truly wanted to preserve that 1950s building on our main street here in Spanish Fork and preserve the history of what that was. Those of you that have been longtime native residents know that Orson Brown opened that facility as a Chevrolet dealership, and it passed hands a few times until we ended up with
Ridley Chevrolet.
Ridley and Barber Brothers. And
Lost about 5 years off my life there working on that building. I hit a steam pipe with a jackhammer. Scared the heck out of me.
So to answer your question, it is to just expand and build into the parking lot. So.
Great. Well, if not, then we'll open up the public hearing and see if any of the public have something to say about it. Thanks, Carrie, for coming.
I move we go into public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're in public hearing. Anyone from the public that'd like to come and address this issue? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon and second by Councilman Scobes This will be a roll call vote. Are any questions or comments?
Just one comment, Mayor. I hope Kerry doesn't fault me for this, but he's a current client of mine at the bank, and he drives a hard deal, so I don't know if I'll finance this in the future. But Junior makes me say that legal language, right? It's not going to keep me from voting in favor of this good change, but just the public knowledge of it's out there. Good enough? Don't have to recuse myself.
He might buy donuts too. Do I have to say anything about that?
Well,
just
And he
kidding.
buys ads at Utah Valley
kidding, Mike.
magazines.
Just kidding,
Carrie,
Mike.
thank you.
All right. Way to go, Carrie. Way to bring her down here. All right, seeing none, let's go. This will be a roll call vote.
Let's make the motion first.
We did.
Nope, we didn't.
Oh, didn't we make it? Oh, we made the motion to go out of close.
Yep.
All right.
I move we approve ordinance number Z12-17, an ordinance changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the Robarge Collision Zone change.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. This will be a roll call vote. Hey, I gave you the tie last time.
That's okay. I'm
Okay. Councilmember Beck.
Hi.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
You're set to go, man. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good
I
luck.
think that's going to be a great asset to the south part of our main street, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, cool.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Ordinance Z13-17, changing the zoning designation, amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork for Canyon Creek Phase 5 Zappa zone change.
Thank you. This has become kind of a necessary cleanup. Probably not essential, but this image does a good job, I think, of illustrating what's planned for a new road that will connect what we now know as Kirby Lane in with Marketplace Drive. So Marketplace Drive is a relatively new road that's north of Famous Footwear, TJ Maxx, and those businesses, well north of that, in fact. There will be a road back behind where Cinemark, which is right here on this image. So to the west of that, there will be this road constructed. It'll be built on land that's currently owned by SAPA. And the city will be obtaining a part of SAPA's land for the road. The adjacent developer of Canyon Creek will also be obtaining some of SAPA's land. It's the land or the area on this image that's outlined in black right here, as well as this little part over here. Given that Canyon Creek will use the land for essentially retail purposes, it seems to make the most sense to change the zoning from industrial to retail zones. So where this part of the SAPA land that we're talking about will be adjacent to property that's zone C2, we proposed that that zoning be changed from industrial 1 to C2, and over on the other part where it's adjacent to land that's currently zoned shopping center, literally that site that we just talked about where Hampton Inn will be constructed, it's been proposed that the zoning be changed from I-1 there to shopping center. Both the Planning Commission and Development Review Committee have reviewed this proposal and have recommended that it be approved.
Great. Since it'll be a public hearing, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So is there anyone that would like to come up and address this project? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any questions or comments about this ordinance? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve ordinance Z13-17, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the Canyon Creek Phase 5 SAPA zone change.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Gordon. Roll call vote on this. Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
That one passes. So we're off to the races on that one. Okay, new business, ordinance 27-17, amended business license fee requirement and addressing changes to home occupation.
You can see from the ordinance in the memo that I sent out that there are quite a few changes to language, but it all really boils down to one simple fact, which is that the Utah Code was changed this past legislative session to exempt certain home occupations from paying a business license fee. So the changes that are proposed tonight will bring our program into conformity with state law, which we always do. And with that proposed change, we also are recommending that our fee structure for business licenses be modified so that that program can continue to be self-sufficient. So in essence, as we likely will see a decrease, something on an order of a few hundred businesses that no longer will pay a business license fee. That's made it necessary to raise our business license fee for the remaining businesses that we have in the community from what is now $40 to $60. So that's part of the change that's before you tonight. That change will, like I said, that'll allow us to operate our business license program without using any other revenue, any kind of general fund revenue or tax revenue to support that service that the city provides. And another thing that I think the changes that are proposed with language in the ordinance helps to clarify is really what that fee is all about for Spanish Fork City. For us, we don't charge a business license fee, for example, to recoup monetarily for resources that maybe we expend dealing with shoplifting in retail establishments or in providing other types of services to support businesses here in the community. For us, simply, it's an administrative fee. That is to say, we have a gal, her title is the city's business license specialist, and she manages a program. And she does a number of different things with the well over 1,000 businesses that we have in the community to make sure that we have a complete record of everybody that is doing business in the community, to make sure that those businesses are properly registered with any state agencies that they need to be registered with. And with very few exceptions, all businesses need to be registered in different ways with other agencies besides just us. So she spends a considerable amount of time researching those types of things. We also provide inspections to businesses. For a number of businesses, in fact, the vast majority of businesses in the community, they get an inspection one time when they first receive a business license. However, for some other businesses that, for example, might have spaces for large gatherings of people, so Cinemark, when they open, they, in fact, in the process of prepping for different inspections that they'll get before they get a business license. And then every year after that, they will receive an inspection as part of their business license renewal. And that's simply to make sure that, in the case of something like a theater, somebody doesn't have some access to a necessary exit blocked or various things like that. In the past, as we've done those annual inspections, we found fire suppression systems, sprinklers that have been disconnected, different things like that. The other businesses that are required to have an annual inspection include things like manufacturing operations or restaurants, just different places where there's some measure of a hazard there that potentially we can help to mitigate by having our fire code official do an annual visit. I think we're doing about 90 of those a year, again, of the over 1,000 businesses that we have in the community, but that's just another component of our business license program and different things that we do. From our perspective as a municipality, I think some of the more important reasons for having the program that we have include, like I kind of touched on a minute ago, simply having a good record of what's happening and where it's happening in the community. That helps us make sure that zoning laws are being respected. It helps us make sure that, to some extent, our residents as consumers are protected. And that being said, still, I think probably the thing that has us the most concerned about business licensing, and it goes really to the heart of the record-keeping side of things and making sure that businesses are properly registered with other agencies. So the State Tax Commission is a really important one for us. You understand very, very well how much we rely on sales tax, but to just point out one thing that we were able to catch here in the last year relative to a new business in the community, and it came through our business license program, and just that series of checks that our business license specialist does, have a new car dealership in town that is absolutely thriving. I won't mention them by name, but they sell a lot of trucks right next to I-15. And they opened, and we rushed to get them a business license so that they could open under their new name. And as we did our checks into how they were registered with the state relative to sales tax, you know, we caught on pretty quickly that they didn't have the proper point of sale noted as Spanish Fork. So if you think about the volume of just money that was going through that business on a monthly basis and the amount of sales tax that they were generating, the prospect that that potentially wouldn't work its way back to Spanish Fork through the proper channels because of an incorrect way that they were registered with the state, and being able to catch that. You know, we're certainly talking in that case about tens of thousands of dollars every month that potentially we would be foregoing, but for, you know, having a competent person managing the program who recognized that and helped us get it straightened out pretty quickly, and we were able to recoup everything that Spanish Fork City was due and so forth. But that's just a little bit more of some of the things that we've recognized over the years as being important relative to having a program that works, and again, having it just simply be self-sustaining is important. When we simply run the numbers, and it's a really simple formula that we've used over the years to calculate what our business license fee should be. It's simply what are our expenses divided by how many licenses we have, and that's a number. Or at least it's practically that simple. We still always kind of look over our shoulder a little bit and like to know, you know, if that puts us on the high side relative to neighboring communities, or just where we might fall. You know, if there's a reason maybe for us to be alarmed, we like to just kind of keep a check on that. And even with this change that's proposed and going from $40 to $60, I'm happy to report that I think we checked 10 or 12 different cities in our area, most of them in Utah County. We're still, if not the lowest, really close to the lowest relative to what that business license fee is. But that all being said, again, home occupations that don't have impact, which is language that mirrors exactly what's found in the state law, they will be exempt from paying a business license administration fee, or for that matter, any fee, in order to get a business license unless they need an inspection. But at least in theory, those businesses wouldn't need an inspection, so they should be exempt from any fees with the language that's proposed. I think that's all I had on that.
Any questions for Dave?
I have a question, Dave. What will be the mechanism for a business owner to understand this? Are we just mailing out a bill that's higher this year? Is there anything that we've thought of or will be doing to let people know about this change?
Certainly open any suggestions or ideas. It has kind of become our standard practice to use Facebook to get the word out on some things like this. We're in the process now of getting ready for business license renewals, so yes, somebody would receive a letter. At least this next year, in all candor, we're talking about going paperless maybe in the next couple of years and forgetting what's kind of been a long, laborious tradition of sending out 1,100 letters a few times a year to people. But at least this year, we would send a letter out that would have an explanation about what's going on with the change. Probably in a couple of different forms, one to businesses that would be exempt from the fee, and one that, you know, would go to businesses that would still be paying the fee. But we're completely open to any suggestions or ideas that any of you might have. The Chamber of Commerce has already helped us a little bit in terms of giving us, some airtime to talk about the change.
I think Mike was going to make comment to that.
Yeah, two things to that respect. Up in, and I think I shared this with some of you, but at the League of Cities and Towns Conference in September, I had an opportunity to visit with now Senator Andrade, but then when he sponsored this bill, it was Representative Andrade, and talked to him a little bit about this because it was a bill that received support from the league. It had different iterations of it before, but then ended up being this type of a bill. And again, the reason I bring that up is because he knew of Spanish Fork. He's not our representative, and he's not our senator, but he knew of Spanish Fork. And it was before I could even bring it up to him that he said, hey, just to let you know, that bill is something that, again, Spanish Fork is already doing. You guys already charge $40 across the board to every business that needs a business license, whether it's a 20,000 square foot building in the new area or whether it's mom and pop shop on Main Street. They pay $40 to get that license. Well, that was being abused in different cities across the state, and so this modifies that and brings it to a different level. But then the next component was this home occupation business, and that brings me to my second point. Is number one, we're already playing by some pretty good rules in Spanish Fork, and people should know that, and the business community should know that. Number two is that we had a Downtown on Main meeting where this was first brought up, and I don't know if it's been mentioned to the general membership of the chamber yet. Probably not. The board has okay. But in that meeting, Dave discussed it in detail, just like he did now, about you have two options. Those businesses still need a license, and they need it for a number of different reasons, and we want to know, because who else is somebody going to ask if somebody's a legitimate business if they don't call the city? They're going to call the city. So they still need that license. For the other reason is financing. In my world, they always need the license. We're going to ask for that. One of the first things we're going to ask for. But it's either you look at the business community and say, okay, now this fee that's not going to be paid by a couple hundred businesses needs to be picked up by the other 1,000 businesses in town, or else the general taxpayer of Spanish Fork has to pick that up. So which is the best model? And when we proposed that, and the mayor, Stacy, can back me up, they were in that meeting as well, but there wasn't one business owner in the Main Street community, which is where I could see this maybe hurting more than anything, because
And I actually talked to a few more people today, and their biggest concern was actually with the legislation and not necessarily with how the city's handling it. They think, it's somewhat unfair that any home-based business is not paying any type of a fee because they're still earning revenue. So basically, that was their big concern.
Travis's. I mean, he was going nuts back there, Heather. He was about to call the chief on you.
Okay, sorry. So I did talk to a few businesses today. Their big concern is actually with the legislation and not necessarily with how the city is handling it. So their concern is that these home-based businesses are still earning revenue, so why aren't they paying the fee? And that was their big concern, and not necessarily with, passing it on to the other types of businesses.
And that's a good point. If I was a business owner, I think they've got a valid argument there, which maybe you'll see some legislation constantly has unintended consequences when it's trying to correct a problem, and so maybe that's the unintended consequence. But from my standpoint, my reading of it, my viewpoint of it, as not a business owner, Brandon, you are mayor. You pay this fee. My employer pays the fee. I don't think this is any way a way that some people have tried to sensationalize it. I think this is cut and dry, and it's the city trying to be upfront and honest with, you're not going to let go of employees in Dave's office. They still need to be there, and they're still doing the same work, if not more work. And this is simply that administrative cost to cover it, not a revenue generator that maybe some cities used in some aspect across the state, but it definitely hasn't been the revenue generator in our department or in our city. So.
And I think that's most important to recognize here publicly, that this is not a revenue generator, and that those home businesses are still going to cost us a certain amount of money but aren't paying their fair share. So everyone needs to understand that still needs to be paid, and we're not making money off of this.
Right.
So today when I got online and printed up like the flow chart of just getting a business license, I think some people think, come in, get a business license, let me push print, and it costs 5 cents. And they're like, there's no way the fees are there. And you've given us an outline description of those fees, and I think it's valid, the $60. I think we might lose people coming in and getting business licenses. I think they might look at it and like, if business licenses are going up, I'm not going to register. Do we foresee that becoming a problem, or there's really not much we can do about that, right?
Honestly, there might be some people out there that are that sensitive to cost.
Yeah.
I have a hard time really fathoming, though, that it'd be much of an issue at all. Particularly given that it's much more common for licenses to cost $100, and more dollars on an annual basis in other communities than where we're at, even at $60. But I mean, I know some people are very sensitive to even something like a $20 difference per year.
And it goes back to maybe sometimes we can correct in the public eye as well for Dave's office that, and a salon is going to have to pay the fee. They're a home-based business that has that, so I get that. But those businesses that decide not to get a business license and be upfront about it in the city, it's not the city that usually goes finds that out. It's the phone calls into Dave's office, during 1 week where 19 cars are pulling up and they're like, hey, somebody's running a business. And so you check on it and then you say, hey, do you need a business license,
Yeah.
So it's a lot of self-policing that goes on in our city that way.
If I may add, I really appreciated something Dave said a moment ago, that we're doing this change to be in compliance with this state law. Senate Bill 81 that ran in this last session, as Councilman Mendenhall said, from Senator Anderegg. And we don't have an opinion about the bill one way or the other. We just get to fall in line with it. And the changes that we're making today are in lockstep with it. If we go to line 130, where did it go?
You want the first one?
Yeah, the first one. So, yeah, line 41. It'll be underlined here. First of all, it says, as a part of this, that a city may impose a fee on a business to recover the cost of regulation, which is what Dave's outlined. We attributed just about $60,000 to the cost of administering a business license program. Not a lot of money as it relates to an operation like this, and that's where that fee comes back. And then really what people have been talking about, I think on Facebook and other places, is this section of the law. And there, I think, is a misunderstanding for at least some people. They take this change in the law to mean that the city cannot charge a fee to a home-based business, period. And that's simply not the law. And I think it's important to correct that misunderstanding. If somebody out there thinks that this bill made it so that all home occupation businesses, no home occupation business should pay a fee of any kind for business license, that's not what the bill says. Specifically, jumping down to line 136, it says that we cannot charge a fee to a home-based business unless the combined offsite impact of the home-based business and the primary residential use materially exceeds the offsite impact. So there's that word impact. We have used the same language in our bill or in our ordinance. We also can't charge a business license to a kid under 18. So if any of your children are going to open up a lemonade stand, in true reading of the law, they should have had a business license in the past. But this law says that we can't charge that. I don't think we ever charged a kid a lemonade stand license. But technically speaking, they were subject to that, and probably some city somewhere was charging that lemonade stand an itinerant fee or something like that. This bill makes it so that we can't do that. We are following this. But if anybody out there thinks that we're maybe thumbing our nose at the state law, I think it's important that they understand we're not. We're in lockstep with the law with this change.
Great. Any other questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 27-17, amending business license fee requirements and addressing changes to home occupations.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Scobes. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Mendenhall?
Aye.
Councilman Scobes?
Aye.
Councilman Argal?
Aye.
Councilmember Beck?
Aye.
Councilman Gordon?
Aye.
That is approved. Maple Heights Highlands Ward preliminary plat.
Thanks, Heather.
My guess is that some of you have noticed some construction activity happening south of Maple Mountain High School on 2550 East. The LDS Church is constructing a meeting house on the site that's just north of the Maple Highlands, I think it is, subdivision right here. Right adjacent to 2550 East. With the development of that church, there will be the development of a section of this roadway here on the west side of that site. And we anticipate that, I don't generally like to speculate about things, but I would guess that in the next couple of years, we'll probably see some other development proposals happen on kind of the remaining part of the property that this lot is being subdivided from. But tonight, the only thing that's before the council is the proposal. In one sense, we could call this maybe like a one-lot subdivision to create this lot here that conceivably could be conveyed to a different owner than whoever might own the remaining part of that existing property there. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. We have talked with the applicant about dedicating right-of-way for future expansions of 2550 East and First South with this subdivision, and they're in the process of making that happen. And with that being the case, both staff and the staff being the Development Review Committee and the Planning Commission have recommended that the proposed subdivision be approved.
Any questions, comments?
You ever been to church at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Brandon?
No.
I have. This is about to solve it.
Bless you. You want to make the motion then?
I'll entertain a motion on this. One of you, anybody.
I make a motion to approve the Maple Highlands Ward preliminary plat.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's approved.
Pumpkins forever, Dave. Pumpkins forever and the rest of that.
Is forever a year?
No.
All right, board appointment. I would like to appoint, we have a vacancy on our rodeo committee, and I would like to appoint Dell Robinson to the rodeo committee.
I move we approve the mayor's appointment of Dale Robinson to the rodeo committee.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Is he
Fred-
old? You old? Is he old enough?
Yeah. He has to come through a certain door.
Yeah. All right, just checking.
Yep, there you go. All right, Fred Vinson, agricultural use of PI water.
Okay, really quick, this development right here had a tailpipe that came through the development and it crossed the road here, and Fred used it to water this little corral area that he has. It would be a lot of money to pipe that tailpipe, and it's kind of a problem when you have these pipes running through residential neighborhoods that eventually won't be used, or when they are used and if they get blocked, it floods a bunch of homes. And so we generally try to avoid having them if we can. And this is an instance where he already had a pressurized irrigation meter right here. It's a 2-inch, so it's big enough to do the watering that he needed. And we've, in a couple other instances, have made agreements with people where once they use what they normally would have used when before they had this situation, then after that we just charge them an agricultural rate which is basically the cost to deliver the water through our pipe system. He would still pay his water shares, assessments, and he still owns the water. All we do is we deliver his water through our pipes, and so it works really well. It doesn't have a huge impact on our system, and it saves a lot of costs and what I would say, liability and a future empty pipe once development occurs, and I think there will come a day where we will not be glad we have a lot of empty irrigation pipes under our roads and yards and things like that. They seem to corrode, and as soon as you find a way into them, then you see sinkholes everywhere, and I think this is good policy. Now, one thing about this agreement, he's looked at it, but he wants to have his attorney look at it. His attorney hasn't looked at it, so I'd ask that you approve it, but it's possible it could come back. It was modeled after the other ones we've approved that have gone through attorneys, and so I kind of doubt it will change, but there's that chance. So I would say approve it, and hopefully I don't have to come back.
This action says consent. What does that, do you want us to do ratify it, make a motion and ratify it later, or?
No, let's make a motion to change this, bring it back.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Fred Vincent PI water lease.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Member Beck, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
I move we go into closed session for reasonably imminent litigation and land transaction.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Appreciate all those who are here. Sure thing.